So we had a barbecue with friends as our last weekend without a baby because we figured he was arriving at any time. Towards the end of that day, I realized that I hadn't really felt their baby move. So I called the OB and they told me to go straight into the hospital into triage to get checked out.
One of the nurses had made a comment prior to them doing the testing saying, oh, it's a good day to have a baby today. So Vilma had looked at me and she's like, you need to go get the baby bag right now. You got to go put the car seat. You got to go do everything. So in a, I guess like a rush of panic, not really knowing what was going on, I went back home. I left her in the hospital with my mom.
And I was moved over into a labor and delivery room to have the sonogram. The sonographer arrived and there was no movement. His biophysical was a 2 out of 8, which means heartbeat and fluids, that's it. We don't know what's happening. We need to get the baby out. I was taken over immediately into the OR. Jose arrived as they were wheeling me out. They gave him scrubs and they said he had to go in. He had no idea what was going on.
Shortly after Bradley was born, through emergency C-section, we noticed that he was turning blue. He would, stop breathing. They immediately had to rush him to the NICU at that point.
On the 6th day of birth, we went into the NICU unit thinking that everything's been improving and that we were going to be fine. And we walk in to be told that he had a seizure and that his glucose levels were low, that the sugars were low at that point in time, and that they were monitoring him. But after about 3 days, they decided that we needed to be transferred to Nicklaus Children's for genetics.
LifeFlight to Nicklaus was an incredible experience. They were so efficient and it just gave us such a sense of safety and secureness that, okay, our kid's gonna be in good hands, with them, because we were worried about that. We're gonna take him out of hospital for the first time and then we're gonna transport him. So once we got there, his room, everything was already set up. It was really, really refreshing to see that we were gonna have a place to sleep. Finally be there in the same room as him and be able to watch him and look out for him and know that something like what happened in the previous hospital was never gonna happen again.
Initially for Bradley, we had to use a medicine called phenobarbital in order to control his seizures. We were able to do it quickly and on a fairly low dose, which was beneficial for him. So that led us to next get imaging of Bradley. We started by getting an MRI of his brain. And that's where we found what we described as kind of bilateral white matter injury. The white matter are the connecting tracks within our brain. So for all of us, we have our cells that are called our gray matter. And then our white matter are the connections connecting other different cells or connecting to different parts of the body lower down. And any disturbance or any injury to those can cause significant issues to the child, whether that be in terms of their neurologic functioning, their development, or even in the case of Bradley, in certain times with seizures as well.
So we found that he was producing too much insulin. Insulin is the one thing or the one hormone that controls basically how your sugar levels are in your body and circulating. What happens is the brains use sugar as their source of energy. Whenever they don't do that, they seek other sources, and when they run out of those other sources, they become what we call hyperexcitable or very prone to releasing spontaneous electrical pulses that can affect the entire brain at that moment in time.
Unfortunately, any child who has injury to their brain is at risk for having a significant impairment in their future development. What we saw for Bradley is that his injury impacted him in a couple of different ways. We know that he has cortical visual impairment as a result of the injury, primarily in the back portions of his brain. We know that it has impacted his motor control. So primarily in terms of his muscle tone, he's had lower kind of tone, especially in his trunk, which has impacted his ability to control his head. It's also impacted his ability to make significant motor milestones. So things like sitting up, crawling, walking that we would expect for other children, Bradley's had a difficult time with as a result of this injury. The thought is that with the appropriate therapies and the appropriate support, that Bradley can make progress. How significant that progress will be is largely individually based, and it'll be up to kind of Bradley to show us what he'll be capable of doing.
Bradley is a happy baby. Everyone that knows him or anybody that meets him will tell you the same thing. He's a happy baby. He's always smiling. He brings so much joy to our life. He has shown us that he can bring so many people together, and that more that we open up and the more that we share him, the more that comes into our life.
I really wouldn't have it any other way. I'll take him just like this, 100%, any day.